What if your happiness is the very thing keeping you weak? What if comfort isn't love? It's anesthesia. They told you to be kind, agreeable, well-adjusted. But adjusted to what? A system built to neuter your instincts and sell you peace while stripping your power? Nietzsche didn't want you calm. He wanted you dangerous. Because power doesn't grow in pleasure, it grows in pain. It grows in defiance, in rage, in a refusal to kneel. But they've replaced your will to power with a will to please. So here's the question. If everything that made you acceptable also made you powerless, would you still want it? Or would you burn it all to the ground just to feel alive again? You think you're alive because you wake up, scroll, work, and sleep? That's not life. That's a loop, a sedated simulation of existence, where fire has been replaced by flickering screens and dopamine drips. You used to burn. As a child, you screamed, climbed, fought, created. Now, you stare, you settle, you survive. Comfort hasn't saved you. It's embalmed you. Every time you skip the hard thing for the easy one, a piece of you dies. Every excuse, every delay, every hit of pleasure over purpose. It's all part of the great euthanasia of your potential. But I'm safe. You say, I'm stable. No, you're stagnant. The world told you pain was bad, that resistance meant something was wrong. But here's the truth. Pain is the only honest teacher left. Without it, you'll never grow teeth, never build armor, never rise. You're not tired, you're under-challenged. You're not lost, you're just too comfortable to move. And somewhere deep down, you know it, that fire inside you, it's not gone, it's buried, starving. This isn't motivation, this is war. Get up or get used to the coffin. You were born free, but you were raised to fear freedom. They didn't build you a prison with bars. They built one with comfort. And the moment you got used to it, they locked the door from the outside. This is the genius of modern control. You're not forced into submission. You're seduced into it. They hand you a screen. They flood you with dopamine. They drown you in convenience. And while you're busy scrolling, consuming, relaxing, you forget what you are. Humans weren't meant to live like this. No struggle, no purpose, no danger, just endless distractions, engineered routines, and a constant, quiet hum of background anxiety. You're not safe. You're sedated. Look at the average person, physically weak, spiritually empty, addicted to their own numbness. They can't sit in silence for more than 10 minutes without reaching for something, anything, to escape their own mind. That's not peace. That's psychological collapse wrapped in a cozy blanket. We traded real life for a simulation. Digital validation instead of real respect. Pleasure instead of meaning. Comfort instead of power. And now we're surrounded by people who look alive but aren't. They don't think for themselves. They don't act from truth. They just follow the script that was handed to them. Go to school. Get a job. Smile. Sit still. Don't question. Obey. And the worst part? They thank the system for it. They believe this cage is civilization. But deep inside, if you're even slightly awake, you can feel it. This isn't life. This is maintenance. Comfort has become the new conformity. Not because it's bad on the surface, but because it kills everything powerful in you. It kills your hunger. It kills your risk. It kills your will to fight, to evolve, to rise. It turns lions into lapdogs. You think slavery disappeared? No, it just changed form. No chance, no weeps, just couches, screens, and a steady drip of pleasure. This isn't freedom, it's domestication. You're being trained to avoid discomfort, to obey trends, to outsource every decision to someone smarter, louder, or richer than you, to consume, comply, and keep your head down, because a man who's distracted is easier to control. A man who's addicted won't rebel. A man who's emotionally dependent on comfort will never walk through the fire that transformation requires. That's the trap. They don't have to fight you. They just have to keep you comfortable enough to never wake up. You'll feel the discomfort somewhere deep under the noise, but you'll think you're the problem. You'll call it anxiety, depression, burnout, and then you'll go searching for a fix within the same system that poisoned you. More therapy, more apps, more content, more noise. You'll keep patching the symptoms instead of burning down the cause. You'll stay in the loop because the loop feels safe. But safety is where power dies, and comfort is where kings forget they were meant to rule. Modern life has made suffering optional, but in doing so, it also made transformation optional. And without that pain, you never evolve. You never grow fangs. You never become who you're supposed to be. You're not here to feel good. You're here to become real. So if you feel angry, good. If you feel empty, pay attention. That's your primal self screaming through the sedation. This world wants you soft, obedient, and addicted. But somewhere inside you, the war hasn't ended. It's just been buried. And if you want to wake up, if you want to break out, you don't need answers. You need to stop running from the pain, because pain is the proof that the prison isn't natural. And once you stop numbing it, the fire returns. You were never supposed to dominate others. You were supposed to dominate yourself. That's what Nietzsche meant by the will to power. It's not about control over the world. It's about not being controlled by your weakness. But most people get it twisted. They think power means manipulation, status, clout. They chase external symbols, money, fame, followers, all while being slaves to their impulses behind closed doors. Let's get this straight. If your emotions control your actions, you have no power. If pleasure controls your choices, you're not free. If fear can stop you from speaking, moving, acting, then you're not a threat. You're a puppet. You don't conquer the world by barking louder. You conquer it by silencing the war inside, by killing the version of you that chooses comfort over courage. Most people live in a hierarchy of excuses. I can't focus. I'm not motivated. I have trauma. They build an entire personality around their wounds and then wonder why they feel powerless. But here's the truth. You're not here to cope. You're here to conquer. Not other people, not the system, yourself. The will to power is the force that rises despite the pain. It doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't seek permission. It's the part of you that stares suffering in the face and says, break me if you can. I won't stop. But that version of you, it doesn't live in your comfort zone. It doesn't exist in your scrolling, your self-help addiction, or your next healing phase. It lives in the fire, in the cold showers, the early mornings, the hard conversations, the brutal honesty, the places you avoid. Why? Because facing yourself is harder than blaming the world. Because pain reveals the truth. And the truth is you've settled for less strength, less clarity, less ownership of your life. You've confused healing with hiding. But real healing hurts. It strips you down. It kills the illusion that you're fine as you are. The will to power doesn't care about your comfort. It cares about your evolution. And evolution is violent. It doesn't negotiate. It breaks what's weak to build what's unbreakable. So ask yourself, are you becoming something stronger or just maintaining something soft? Because every day you avoid the fire, you're feeding the version of you that stays trapped. But every time you choose discipline over dopamine, pain over comfort, action over overthinking, you reclaim your edge. This is the war, and the battlefield isn't out there. It's in your habits, your excuses, your silence. You won't find power in shouting. You'll find it in restraint. You'll find in the moments you choose silence over validation, stillness over reaction, hard truth over sweet lies. Because when you stop trying to prove yourself to the world and start proving something to yourself, that's when the will to power ignites. And once it does, you're no longer controlled. You become the force that shapes reality. Everyone wants to be powerful, but no one wants to bleed for it. That's the lie most people never wake up from. They think pain is a glitch, a curse, a sign something has gone wrong. But the truth? Pain is the most honest thing you'll ever feel. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't coddle your ego. It rips off the mask you didn't even know you were wearing and forces you to face the raw version of yourself hiding beneath comfort's illusion. You've been conditioned to run from pain like it's the enemy. But Nietzsche knew better. Pain isn't what breaks you. It's what breaks who you're not. The false self. The obedient self. The self built for survival, not strength. The self society praises because it's too weak to revolt. This isn't destruction, it's exposure. Think about it. Who are you when everything is stripped away? When your routines are shattered? When your image collapses? When no one's watching? Most people don't want the answer because they know the truth is ugly. And that's exactly why it matters. Pain forces confrontation. It doesn't give you the option to keep playing a role. When life hits you hard enough, your persona cracks. And what leaks out, that instinct, that chaos, that voice inside that's been buried beneath layers of compliance, isn't weakness. It's your real self trying to claw its way out. You were never meant to stay comfortable. You were meant to evolve. And evolution doesn't happen in soft light and pretty affirmations. It happens in fire, in the shaking, in the silence after betrayal, in the nights where you question everything you thought you were. That's the birthplace of power, not the surface, but the storm. Most people fear this process because they confuse pain with failure. They assume if something hurts, they did something wrong. But that's a lie sold by a world addicted to ease. Growth is not pain-free. Birth isn't. Rebirth certainly isn't. Transformation costs you everything that was never truly yours. That fake confidence? Gone. That identity built on approval? Shattered. That life scripted by fear? Dead. And what's left isn't polished or polite. It's real. It's violent. It's raw. And for the first time, it's you. This is why Nietzsche didn't want you happy. Happiness is fleeting, performative, often hollow. What he wanted was something far more dangerous, authentic power. And power doesn't come from protecting your comfort. It comes from losing it. Your pain is a test and a mirror. It reveals how much of your life is based on lies. It shows you where you're weak, not to shame you, but to give you a map. That fear you feel, that avoidance, those are signs, signals pointing you to the exact parts of yourself you've abandoned. And until you reclaim them, you'll stay fragmented. Society calls this breakdown. Nietzsche called it becoming. The pain isn't proof you're lost. It's proof you're finally waking up. You're seeing through the game. You're realizing the version of you that could be destroyed was never the real one to begin with. Let that sink in. The self that panics under pressure, the one that clings to status, titles, image, that's not you. That's who you were told to be. That's what's burning. And that's exactly what needs to die. Because here's the paradox. You don't find your strength by protecting yourself. You find it by watching yourself fall and realizing you're still here, still breathing, still aware, still capable of choosing something better. Pain doesn't destroy you. It refines you. And the parts it burns off? Good. Let them go. You don't need the mask. You don't need the performance. You don't need to be liked by people who fear their own reflection. What you need is truth. And truth has teeth. It doesn't comfort. It confronts. It doesn't whisper, it screams. And once you've heard it, really heard it, you can't go back. You can't unsee how much of your life was lived on autopilot, how much of your identity was curated for approval, how much of your potential was buried beneath fear. This is the cost of awakening. Pain first, power second. But here's what most people never realize. Once you've passed through the fire, once you've let pain do its work, you become untouchable. Not because you never suffer again, but because you no longer fear it. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Not because life got easier, but because you got harder. And that's where the will to power begins. It doesn't start with domination or control. It starts with endurance, with intensity, with the courage to let everything false die, so something stronger can be born in its place. So if you're suffering right now, good. Don't run. Don't numb it. Don't escape. Sit in it. Bleed in it. Burn in it. And watch what survives. Because what survives is you. The real you. The one that doesn't beg for validation. The one that doesn't shrink for comfort. The one that can't be broken, only revealed. That is what pain is trying to show you. Not your limits. Your essence. And once you've seen it, you'll realize pain wasn't the enemy. It was the doorway. Walk through it. Everyone wants transformation, but no one wants the pain that demands it. So instead, we run, we distract, we medicate, we scroll through curated lives, numb ourselves with synthetic pleasure, and call it coping. But this isn't coping, it's decay in disguise. We think we're surviving the chaos, but we're avoiding the crucible. And what you avoid owns you. The modern mind is trained to escape discomfort like it's fire, when in truth, it's the forge. We've built an entire culture on the worship of comfort. The moment suffering arises, we treat it like a malfunction. Something must be wrong. Something must be fixed. But suffering is not a glitch in the system. It is the system that reshapes you. And if you never face it consciously, you'll be reshaped unconsciously by addictions, distractions, and endless anxiety you can't explain. You don't need to eliminate pain. You need to become someone who can hold it without flinching. You can't kill the monster if you keep running from it. When suffering shows up, most people turn to sedation. And that's exactly why they stay broken. They distract themselves with endless noise, podcasts, playlists, porn, productivity tips, anything to avoid stillness. But silence is where the truth lives. And the truth is brutal. Most of your suffering isn't from pain itself. It's from your resistance to it. You've been trained to believe every pang of discomfort is something to run from. But what if it's not the enemy? What if it's the teacher? What if the very thing you're avoiding is the key to who you're becoming? Pain, when observed without reaction, turns into power. But that power only appears when you stop interpreting suffering as a personal attack. It's not out to destroy you. It's trying to show you what you're made of. The worst kind of suffering isn't what life does to you. It's what you do to avoid feeling it. Awareness doesn't end suffering. It transcends it. Hears what they don't tell you. Presence hurts. Real awareness feels like burning. Why? Because when you actually look at your life without filters, without excuses, without performance, you see everything. You see the weak patterns, the mental shortcuts, the fake identities you built to survive. And it stings, but that sting is sacred. The moment you allow yourself to feel fully, without judging it, numbing it, or narrating a victim story, you reclaim something powerful. You stop being a slave to your pain and start becoming the sculptor. You don't escape the fire. You walk into it with your eyes open. And in doing so, the fire doesn't burn you. It refines you. Most people never get here. They're too obsessed with happiness too allergic to discomfort to realize what they're throwing away. Transformation. Pain demands your attention, but if you give it your awareness, it becomes your alchemy. The new addiction. Escaping the cell society sells you 1,000 ways to run, from therapy apps to vacations to self-care routines that are really just dopamine loops with better branding. And yet, with all this running, people are more anxious, more depressed, and more spiritually lost than ever. Because you can't outrun your shadow. You can't medicate away your meaninglessness. You can't Netflix your way through an existential void. Eventually, the truth catches up. The truth is this: if you never sit inside your suffering with full awareness, you will never know who you really are underneath all the noise. The very thing you're avoiding is the gate to power. Not power over others, power over yourself. That's what Nietzsche meant by amor fati, the love of one's fate, including the pain. Not tolerance, love. To say, this too belongs to me. To stop praying it away and start wielding it. Real power is born in the place you want to avoid. Most you will never reach your final form by escaping the present one. Every scar you carry has a message, but you can't read it if you're busy pretending it doesn't exist. To suffer with awareness is to look that wound in the eye and ask it what it's trying to teach you. And not just for a moment, for as long as it takes. Not with desperation, but with discipline. Not for escape, but for integration. The pain is the test. The awareness is the tool. Together, they become the forge. That's where the real transformation happens. Not in the highlight reel of your life, but in the unedited footage. The moments you wanted to numb, run, or disappear. That's the material. That's the raw, ugly, precious substance of true growth. Most people spend their entire lives running from the very thing that could set them free. But you're not most people. You're here to learn how to feel without flinching. Not to be numb, to be awake. You don't achieve the will to power. You endure your way into it. It's not handed to you by talent, beauty, or intellect. It's carved into you through failure, humiliation, isolation, and relentless internal war. If you've ever imagined that real strength comes from motivation or mindset hacks, you've been lied to. The will to power is not a philosophy for the comfortable. It's a weapon that's sharpened in hell, because only the fire can burn away what's weak in you. And most people will never let themselves go deep enough to find out what survives the flames. No one can give you power. Not even Nietzsche. The will to power isn't something you read about, quote, or post on social media when you're feeling edgy. It's what you become when life has beaten you past the point of self-pity and you choose to rise without asking permission. It's what awakens when your illusions have collapsed, when your fantasies of fairness, justice, and cosmic reward systems have all been shattered. It's what's left when nothing is left except your refusal to stay broken. This is the part nobody wants to talk about, because everyone wants to feel powerful, but no one wants to bleed for it. Your power is hiding inside what you haven't faced, yet the fire doesn't lie. It exposes. It shows you the parts of yourself that comfort covered up, the weakness, the fear, the inherited beliefs that never belonged to you. And it will burn them out one by one if you let it. But most people won't. They negotiate with the pain. They want strength without sacrifice, depth without descent. They want the results of transformation without the destruction it requires. But the truth is simple. Who you are now cannot carry the power you're asking for. You need to let that version of you die. Not gently, not slowly, violently. Burn it, watch it scream, and do not flinch, because only in that death is something more dangerous born. You have to be willing to burn everything that isn't you if you're still trying to be liked, approved of, or validated. Then the fire hasn't done its job yet. You're still wearing a mask, and the fire doesn't tolerate masks. It melts them off until the real you is exposed, raw, ugly, furious, free. This is the moment where everything shifts. You stop chasing meaning in outside things. You stop blaming others. You stop waiting for someone to save you. And instead, you start forging yourself into the weapon you were meant to become. That's the will to power, not dominance over others, but dominion over your inner chaos. Survival is passive. Power is chosen. Anyone can survive pain. That's not rare. Even animals do that, but very few confront it deliberately. Fewer still walk into the fire and say, "Burn me clean," because this level of power doesn't come from avoiding destruction. It comes from mastering it. And that means knowing the fire intimately, not fearing it, not worshiping it, but using it. You learn how to burn with awareness. You learn when to hold on and when to incinerate. You realize that the version of you that suffered isn't the one who walks out alive. The one who walks out is designed by fire, built from pain, and untouchable by anything that once controlled you. The world fears people who've burned and kept walking because they can't be shamed. They've already been humiliated. They can't be blackmailed. They've already been exposed. They can't be manipulated. They've already killed the parts of themselves that could be used. When you've suffered consciously, when you've lost everything false and survived the process awake, you're no longer fragile. You don't need safety. You don't need validation. You don't need anyone to understand you. You've stepped outside the collective illusion and into something more terrifying, actual freedom. And that kind of freedom makes the domesticated world nervous. The will to power is not about winning. It's about not breaking. Understand this. Power doesn't always look like success. Sometimes power is waking up and choosing not to run. Sometimes it's holding the line when everything inside you wants to scream. Sometimes it's doing what's necessary even when no one will ever see it or thank you for it. Because the fire doesn't care about applause. It only cares about purification. The will to power is forged in fire because the fire is honest. It strips you down to the one thing that can't be taken away. Your will to keep becoming, even when everything else is being destroyed. And when that's all you have left, you realize it was the only thing that was ever real. Being real is rebellion now. Not because it's edgy, not because it's cool, but because it's dangerous. Authenticity is violent, not in the way of fists and blood, but in the way it shatters illusions. Because when you show up as your raw, unfiltered self in a world built on masks, you don't just break the rules, you threaten the entire system. The modern world runs on conformity. Fit in, be normal, be polite, don't offend. They train you to smile while you're dying inside, to nod while your soul screams, to keep your voice down even when every fiber of your being is telling you to burn the script. Because the moment you step out of line, really step out, you become a mirror, and mirrors are dangerous. You make others see what they've buried. Their cowardice, their compromises, their fake little lives held together with borrowed opinions and artificial morality. Authenticity isn't just uncomfortable. It's a threat. It exposes the lie, and the herd hates being exposed. That's why you're punished for standing out. Not because you're wrong, but because you remind them they're living wrong. You become radioactive, not because you're toxic, but because truth in a world of performance feels like violence. Look around. We're in an age where people are more connected than ever, but no one's saying anything real. It's a masquerade. Everyone's curating themselves, carefully filtering what they believe, what they want, who they are, just to keep the illusion going. And you? If you walk in with your soul bare, if you speak with conviction, if you refuse to play the game, you won't be celebrated. You'll be hated, feared, mocked, exiled, because authenticity isn't just rare, it's incompatible with the herd. They'll call you arrogant. They'll call you unstable. They'll say you're too much, too intense, too obsessed. What they mean is you're not controllable. And nothing terrifies the herd more than someone who isn't seeking their approval. But let me tell you something. If the price of being accepted is being fake, then rejection is holy. Let them cast you out. Let them label you. Let them squirm when you speak truth with no sugar, no apology, no script. Because the moment you stop contorting yourself to fit their expectations, you become powerful. Not loud, not performative, real, and real is ungovernable. But don't confuse authenticity with self-expression. It's not about telling the world how you feel every 5 minutes. It's not about indulgence. It's about alignment. It's about living in a way where your thoughts, your actions, your values, they're yours. Not downloaded from some influencer. Not stolen from your social circle. Yours. And when that happens, you stop being a character. You stop being a brand. You become a force. But here's the cost. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose that easy, fake sense of belonging. Because authenticity kills what's false. And most people are built on falseness. But what you'll gain, self-respect, inner clarity, spiritual aggression, the kind of integrity that makes you immune to manipulation. And that's what they don't want. They don't want you to be clear. They want you confused, second-guessing yourself, looking outward for your identity, begging to be accepted. But the moment you look inwards, and you accept yourself first, the herd can't touch you anymore. They'll bark. They'll try to shame you. They'll pretend you're the villain. But deep down, they'll feel it that you're real and that they're not. So don't tone it down. Don't explain yourself. Don't dilute your fire just to make the cold feel warm. Because authenticity in this world, it's an act of war. And if you're not ready to be hated for who you are, you'll always be loved for who you're not. Most people don't lose their power. They give it away. bit by bit, year by year, in every silent compromise, every swallowed truth, every moment they chose comfort over growth. Until one day they wake up, docile, drained, obedient, still breathing, but already conquered. This is not about motivation. This is about war, not against others, but against the slow, silent death of your own will. The will to power isn't about control. It's about direction. It's the force inside you that says, I will not rot in this skin. I will rise. I will become something no one saw coming. But before you can reclaim it, you have to kill the virus infecting it. Domestication. From birth, they condition you to obey, to be manageable, to live inside lines someone else drew for you. They call it education. They call it discipline. They call it being a good person. But what they're really teaching you is how to fold, how to betray your instincts, how to suppress your hunger, how to ask permission to exist. You weren't born weak. You were taught to fear your own power. So reclaiming it starts with a purge. 1. Burn the lie of approval. Every time you alter yourself to be liked, you're poisoning your will. The will to power demands friction. It doesn't care if you're accepted. It doesn't care if you're celebrated. It only cares if you're becoming something real. You can't evolve if you're still addicted to applause. You must become willing to disappoint everyone who benefited from your smallness. Because the moment you stop begging for approval, you stop being a puppet and start becoming a force. Kill the need to be liked. That's the first resurrection. 2. Build rituals of psychological war. Power doesn't return just because you want it. It returns when you earn it. And that requires deliberate pain. Not chaos. Not self-destruction. Controlled suffering. You want your will to power back. Then stop avoiding hardship and start crafting it. Wake up earlier than you want. Train harder than you need. Speak truths that make you tremble. Do the thing your fear tells you not to. Every act of discipline is a vote for your dominance. Every sacrifice is an investment in your future aggression. This is not about aesthetics. It's about building a spine. One forged in fire, not foam. No more soft mornings. No more digital sedation. No more numbing yourself with dopamine like a child. You want power? Then bleed for it. In silence. In structure. Every single day. 3. Get ruthless with your identity, your name, your job, your culture, your past. All of it is optional. The will to power doesn't operate inside the identity you were handed. It operates in the identity you choose. The weak stay loyal to who they were. The strong reinvent. You have to become willing to betray your former self, to disappoint the echo of who you used to be, to rip out the parts of you that no longer serve the mission. Because the longer you cling to "this is just who I am," the longer you stay stuck in someone else's design. You don't have to be what they expect. You don't even have to be what you expect. You just have to be something more. Kill the old you, not with shame, but with hunger. For master the art of non-negotiation. Weakness loves compromise. It wants you to be diplomatic with your own potential, to settle, to adjust your vision to match your environment. But the will to power is non-negotiable. If it wants something, it takes, not recklessly, but relentlessly. You have to stop explaining yourself. Stop trying to be understood. Stop justifying your intensity. You were not born to be digestible. You were born to become something so potent it bends the room when you enter. That doesn't happen through consensus. It happens through will. Decide who you will become and burn every bridge that leads backward. 5. Make pain your compass. Most people run from discomfort. That's why they never evolve. The will to power doesn't just endure pain. It seeks it because every pain you survive becomes proof you are more than flesh, more than fear, more than comfort. Start orienting your life toward the sharp edge. Say the thing that might cost you fake friends. Start the project that exposes your limits. Cut ties with the people who enable your decay. If it hurts and it builds you, it's sacred. Comfort is the enemy. Pain is the map. Follow it. 6. Stop looking for a savior. No one is coming. No book, no guru, no system. You are the answer to your own stagnation. This is what the will to power really means. You are not waiting anymore. You are becoming. No one can hand you transformation. It's not a download. It's not a life hack. It's a warpath. One that begins the moment you stop asking for direction and start walking through fire. Your suffering isn't a curse. Your rage isn't a defect. Your obsession isn't a problem. These are tools, and you've been taught to suppress them because the system fears what happens when you use them. But now, you know, the will to power is not a philosophy. It's a command. Stand up, not as who they raised you to be, but as who you choose to become. A builder, a breaker, a beast. Not as who they raised you to be, but as who you choose to become. A builder, a breaker, a beast. This isn't life. It's a performance. And you've been cast as a background character in your own story. You wake up, you grind, you scroll, you smile when you're supposed to. But deep down, you know something's off. You feel hollow, numb, stuck, because everything you've been taught to chase, comfort, peace, validation, is the exact thing that's caging you. They told you to be nice, to avoid conflict, to stay safe. But safety is a leash. You're not free. You're managed, controlled, domesticated. You think you have free will? Try going a week without the things that pacify you. No porn, no phone, no likes, no sugar, no distractions. Let's see how powerful you feel then. This world isn't designed for you to awaken. It's built to keep you asleep, comfortable, compliant, forgettable. And most will stay exactly where they are, smiling, consuming, dying slowly,